So let's talk about internationalization in cyberspace or global strategy. So what I do here is basically share with you findings from my own research, from my own dissertation. I started with looking at global internet companies and the information about their internationalization from the early commercialization of the internet in the mid 90s until 2009. That was the year when I conducted my research. So as you can see, these companies actually internationalized very quickly, relatively to other companies. So that was my focus, internationalization in cyberspace, okay? Companies that offer digital goods and services. So one of the main questions is why are they so different? I mean, if you look at a classic company like McDonald's compared to Google, you'll see that their strategy is quite different. For example, McDonald's relies on franchisees. And at least back then, they said that they had 2,400 franchisees, and they said that that was one of their main strategic goals, to have as many franchisees as possible. While Google, for example, when they started growing globally and they started offering their search engine in many languages, it wasn't even a question. I mean, they didn't look for franchisees in global markets. Okay, they had control and ownership over their foreign language search engines. So there are many, many theories that explain internationalization. We are not going to uh, go deeply into any of them, and we can skip this slide basically. Um, what those theories try to explain to us is why do we have multinationals at all? I mean, wouldn't it be better for a company like Google, for example, to license its technology? So to find people that will buy the license in many countries, and then they don't have to work hard on marketing themselves in foreign markets. They can just earn money from their technology. Um, so why do multinationals exist at all? And what should be the pattern of internationalization? Should I, as if I have an American company, should I go first to Canada or to the UK or to France or to Mexico? So that's the issue with pattern, how it looks on the globe. And the entry mode, should I export? Should I go to the foreign market and start a business from scratch? We call it greenfield. Should I acquire a foreign company? And that's how I'll go to a foreign market. Or should I have a joint venture with a local company? In other words, if I'm an American company that wants to enter the French market, maybe I should have a joint venture with a French company that know the market. And I can also have a strategic alliance, some sort of long-term agreement with a foreign company that will help me make business in a foreign market. So these are the questions. I'll present a very simple model. It's a very old model, and it actually answers many of those questions. So the Uppsala model basically focuses on knowledge. Okay, basically, you need to learn the foreign market in order actually to make money there. And the most important knowledge is experiential knowledge. Okay, the most important is the experience you acquire in a foreign market. So that's why internationalization is a gradual. It's an incremental process because of the time it takes to learn. Okay, the more I learn about foreign markets, the lower the risk that I perceive, and then I'll be willing to increase my investment in those foreign markets. So I start by exporting there, then I'll have maybe a sales office, and then I'll have maybe a factory. Okay, so it's a gradual process of learning, and even though it's a very old model from 1977, since they focus on learning, it's very difficult to argue with them because, yes, it is a learning process. I mean, when companies go global, of course, it's a learning process. So that's the model. There's the state aspects and the change aspects. States aspects are like the market knowledge that I have now and the market commitment. In other words, the investment how much am I invested in the market? So that's my state now. However, there's also the change over time aspects. I can take more commitment decisions. In other words, I can increase my investment, and I also learn from current activities. In other words, I learn, I invest, I learn more, I invest more. That's the gradual process. So there is a concept that is very important in that model, and that's the psychic distance, or in other words, the cultural distance. The psychic distance actually interferes me, prevents me from learning. So the more distant I am culturally from the foreign market, the harder it is to learn, the more difficult it is for me to learn the foreign market. So what is the psychic distance? It's all those factors that prevent the flow of information between the firm and the market, like language, culture, political system, level of education, and level of industrial development. That's why, for example, a Swedish company, it's a Swedish model. A Swedish company will go first to countries that are very similar, like Denmark and Norway, and then maybe to Finland, and then maybe to Germany and Holland, because it's easier to learn, because the cultural distance is not that large. So what are the stages? As I said before, you export, then you establish a sales subsidiary, and then you start production in the host country. They build the model based on observations they had from Swedish manufacturing companies. Okay. So I said everything here, basically. Let's move on. And now the big question is it valid for internet firms? Is this model that was developed based on industrial firms, is it also valid in cyberspace, on the internet? When you sell information and communication technology, so when you sell digital goods and services. So if you think about foreign market learning, it is possible to learn a lot about foreign markets also from a distance. You don't have to be there. In other words, even before Google entered the Israeli market, even before Facebook entered the Israeli market, they knew a lot about the Israeli users, okay? Because they see how they use their website. You also have to remember that many Israelis use Google and Facebook in English. But even if they don't, I mean, you can learn a lot about a foreign market without even being there, because the internet is universal, of course. With regards to risk, then, well, if you learn a lot, then the risk that you perceive is, of course, lower. And what about investment, or what they call market commitment? When, because of the digital format, because it's easy, versioning, we've discussed in the beginning of this course, versioning, creating language versions, usually, of a digital good or product is not that expensive. So this investment is not that big. With regards to speed, that allows faster globalization or internationalization. And the pattern, well, maybe it's not that important to go to a country that is similar to you culturally. Because first of all, you can say that the cultural differences among internet users are not as large as the cultural differences among people in real life. In other words, yes, TikTok is popular in Israel and it's popular in China and it's popular in America. Young people that use TikTok are not that different, or at least their needs in attention, recognition, sense of community, and all that, the difference is maybe not that big. And if you look at entry mode, well, it all leads to actually more control. Okay, you will have websites that are owned by us because the investment is not the required investment is not that big. The risk is not that high. So we don't need to find a licensee or a franchisee. We can actually have wholly owned website in foreign languages, in foreign markets. So what did I find? What you see here is 4 companies: eBay, Facebook, Google, Yahoo. And on the table here, you can see the entry modes they had in foreign markets, like wholly owned subsidiary. That's in the literature of the classic internationalization. I called it wholly owned site. It could be also acquisition, joint venture, or strategic alliance. And basically, you can see that in most cases, they had wholly owned subsidiary. It was 213 market entries out of 247. So one of the main theories in international business is internalization theory. And internalization is this case where there is no market for you out there. So you internalize the activity. In other words, in this specific case, there is no market for franchisees or people that will buy license from you. Therefore, you have to do it by yourself. So because it is very difficult to trade technology when one company sells technology to another, there are a lot of problems associated with it. For example, first of all, you have to find a partner. Not in every country in the world there are advanced enough technologically partners that can actually buy such a license. Second of all, there is also the risk that somebody will steal your technology, and so on and so on. So basically, this theory is supported. Another theory is with regards to psychic distance or cultural distance. And what you see on the vertical axis is the cultural distance between a foreign market and the home market, which is the US. And on the horizontal axis, you see market entry, the first market entry, the second, the third, the fifth, the 10th, and so on. And generally speaking, eBay started from markets that are culturally closer and gradually expanded to markets that are gradually more distant, more distant. So what we see so far, basically, is two examples, this example and this example, for actually, we see that the theory works just fine. Okay, basically, generally speaking, theory works. So I'll give you some additional information for as a background to my findings, or the special things that I managed to find here. So if we go to the year 2009, 83% of all internet users actually used only 10 languages: English, Mandarin, Spanish, Japanese, Portuguese, German, Arabic, French, Russian, and Korean. So actually, well, if you want to cover 83% of the internet population, you don't have to work that hard. Okay, you don't have to translate your website to hundreds of languages. And what we see is actually that languages are extremely important on the internet because the web is universal. So what I found basically is that some companies, when they internationalize, they focus on languages and not on countries. Okay, the literature, the international business literature, they focus on countries, on territory. Okay, but what I found was that some companies actually focus on languages. For example, Google just released its search engine in foreign languages, and they actually could release many, many languages in one day. And that's a market entry. I mean, if you release Danish and Dutch and Finnish, yes, you enter the Danish and the Dutch and the Finnish markets because now you're going to compete in that market. You're going to sell advertising and so on. So unlike the Uppsala model that claimed that internationalization is something gradual, we see here actually a lot of market entries in a single day. It was in May 2000, September 2000, and December 2000, many new languages in one day. In the case of Facebook, they crowdsourced translation. So they had 300,000 volunteers, users, that volunteered to translate the interface of the website. And they built a tool where you can choose what you want to translate. You can translate a word or a sentence or a paragraph. And then there was a voting system. So people could vote for the best translation. And they managed to translate the website very quickly to dozens of different languages. And also here there was attention and recognition and sense of community. I mean, the top translator were actually got attention. They built this website for each language with top translators and so on. So that's also a new finding because this is not something that you can find in existing literature. So Facebook and Google basically had language versions, while eBay and Yahoo had country versions. For example, there was eBay Japan and eBay France. So, of course, I argue that the language versions allow faster internationalization because um, there are languages that are being spoken in many countries, like Arabic, Chinese, English, French, Spanish, even German. And maybe that's the best strategy if you want to go fast. Here is another table that shows per year how many market entries there were. And generally speaking, Facebook and Google were much faster. Generally speaking, in the case of eBay, you can see in 2001, 20 markets per year, but that's because they acquired another company, so you can ignore that. But basically, eBay and Yahoo are more gradual, they are slower, and they go by country. Facebook and Google go faster. Um, so what we see here basically is companies with different behavior. eBay and Yahoo are quite similar to each other, while Facebook and Google are also quite similar to each other. And what can we learn from that? So I claim that Facebook and Google, what they had basically is a concept of one global internet platform that had different interfaces, different languages, while eBay and Yahoo, they had for each country another website. Okay, it also part of it is the business model of eBay and of Yahoo. I don't want to spend too much time on explaining the business model and the content and the marketplace and all that. But generally speaking, you can say that those companies that build a global platform with different language interfaces, they grew faster. That's Facebook and Google. So what are the managerial implications? Well, what I claim is that basically if you build a global internet platform, if you focus on languages, if you learn foreign markets online, even before you go there, and if you enter a few markets at once, you will basically grow faster. Your internationalization process will be faster. And if you think about the network effect here, then of course it has business implications, okay? You can also crowdsource translation, and everything we said about crowdsourcing applies here as well. Social rewards, attention, recognition, and of course, no money compensation, and don't remind them of money. And another interesting finding is those companies who build a platform. For example, Facebook had a lot of app developers from foreign markets. And if you think about it, think about Android, for example. I mean, who creates apps for the French market? Well, it's French people. So Google, the owner of Android, they don't have to bridge psychic distance. It is the foreign third-party developers that do it for them. Okay? So if you actually adopt the model of a platform and ecosystem, you can go faster because you don't really have to worry too much about cultural distance. You don't have to invest that much. It is the third-party developers that invest. So you have lower investment, lower risk, and less problems of learning and cultural distance. Some examples. That's a company that was very popular in 2009. It's called Remember the Milk. And as you can see, they adopted a similar strategy. Uh, you can volunteer to help translate Remember the Milk interface into your favorite language. Feel free to translate as little or as much as you'd like, from a single phrase to the entire site. So that's another example of crowdsourcing, internationalization, or at least translation. The same with Twitter. We're looking for translators in Afrikaans, Albanian, Arabic, and so on. And what you can see here is the top translators. Okay, so as we said before, attention, recognition, sense of community, you can see it here. People who translated the most get more recognition. In the case of YouTube, there is an interesting strategy. You can choose the language and the country. In other words, if you live in France, but you prefer interface in German and content from Brazil, you can choose that. So again, they ignore the geographic borders. They focus more on languages. And when you choose countries, the country where the content comes from, basically. And in LinkedIn, it's one global platform where there are different interfaces in different languages. That's it. I'll see you in the next video.